Hey, it's Jody. I am here to share a preview of this week's AP Taylor Swift After School episode, a deeper discussion on the Canterbury Tales. If you haven't read it or it's been a while, imagine Love Island, but it's the 1390s. Everyone's going on a religious road trip, and instead of coupling up, they're having a storytelling competition at a bar. That's the Canterbury Tales in a nutshell. Join us on our after school episode as we go a little deeper into Geoffrey Chaucer's book, The Canterbury Tales, exploring how this 14th century masterpiece was the original common people's literature and why these 600-year-old stories feel surprisingly modern and even, yes, related to Taylor Swift. If you like this sneak peek and want to listen to the full episode, you can subscribe to After School on Substack at aptaylorswift.substack.com/subscribe. Subscribers get a new episode every month, plus some fun bonuses like additional content, early access to future episode topics, and the chance to inform some of our upcoming content. And of course, you can find the link in the show notes of this episode. Enjoy.
You are listening to AP Taylor Swift, the podcast for Swifties who are all about the lyrics. We're your hosts. I'm Jen.
I'm Muncie.
And I'm Jody.
And we are your unofficial professors of Taylor Swift. We only have a few manuscripts of the Canterbury Tales. I don't remember the exact number, and they're all fragments. So if you ever read a book version of it, it'll usually say like fragment 1, fragment 2. And so we have stories that we know go together, but we actually don't know the full order of everything. But we do know that we have, so you have the introduction to the Canterbury Tales, which introduces all the characters and the frame narrative. And then we have the Knight's Tale, the Miller's Tale, and then the Clerk's Tale. And those all are in the same manuscript, so we know that's the order it goes in. And I'm going to make Taylor references with these, but
Please.
the first two are so fascinating. So the Knight's Tale, for the most part, the knight is the only noble character in all of the Canterbury Tales. The rest of them are all sinners and degenerates from the standards of the time, but the knight, he's a good noble man, and his tale is the most boring thing you're ever going to read. So it's like he's this noble character, but Chaucer is still doing very tongue-in-cheek it's this very long tale, very morally upright. He references mythology, he references ancient Rome, so it's a very scholarly, very well thought out, has this moral upright standing kind of energy around it. And I always, this is like, so even before we just did this topic, sometimes when I listen to I Bet You Think About Me, and she talks about they sit around talking about the meaning of life in the book that just saved them that I hadn't heard of, that like, oh, these people are so pretentious and this sounds so boring. That's the Knight's Tale. Like, I've always thought about that. Like, you're supposed to hear it and you're like, oh, okay, like,
Who
oh, we're still
cares?
okay, the story's
And
still going.
the
Like,
Knight's
we all
Tale,
know those people.
The Knight's Tale's the first one, right? Like, that's
Correct,
how the whole
yep.
thing opens up, yeah.
He's a noble man. He volunteers to go first. They're on a pilgrimage. They're on a Catholic pilgrimage to go see the relics of the saint of Thomas of Becket. So he's going to start, and he's going to set us off on this good, noble Christian path. He is a knight from the Crusades. So he's not just a battle knight. He is a Christian knight who is killing for God. So he is
literally
the best of the best here.
Now.
Yeah. And you're not supposed to hate him as a character. I don't think. You're just supposed to be like, dude, this is boring. This is like,
So this is where I started the book without any context initially, and I was like halfway through, and I was like, this is gonna be
like
really
asleep.
tough. And then
like
you guys
asleep.
were like, just
read The Wife of Bath.
Wife of Bath. Yeah, no. And it's that the reason it always makes me think of I Bet You Think About Me, and that is just like, when she says those lines, you can imagine being at that dinner table with those pretentious people, and you're like, this is the worst conversation I've been a part of. And that's kind of like the vibe you're supposed to get off the night, because it immediately goes into the Miller's Tale, and the Miller's Tale is raunchy. So it's all about the wife. Her name is Allison, and she pulls the wool over the eyes of her stupid old husband and has an affair with Nick, the neighbor.
Isn't Allison the name of the Wife of Bath too? Because they mention Allison in the Wife of Bath too.
Yep. Yeah, it is. Which could be we don't know. I don't think at this point.
He's one of the husbands.
Or just kind of, I mean, Allison was also a common name, but it could have been like kind of poking fun of like, look at these immoral Allisons. Like, we don't totally know,
One of
but
my
yeah,
one of my okay, so I clearly read this in high school. He kisses her butt, and then I have gross.
yeah,
Absalom started wiping his mouth dry. Dark was the night, as pitch, as black as coal. And at the window, out she put her hole. And Absalom, so fortune framed her farce, put up his mouth and kissed her naked arse.
yep.
And you wrote gross.
And he knew quite well a woman has no beard, yet something rough and hairy had appeared.
Yep. Again, it's so raunchy. Like, it's so funny. And it comes after the Knight's Tale. So we had this long, boring tale. And then the Miller basically starts out and he's like, cool, man. So let me tell you my story. And it's this woman who's having sex with whoever she wants, who's
He's drunk.
tricking her husband, who's doing like she's in control of the story, and it's like, it's so funny to me because it starts out so good and noble, and then it devolves so fast.
And opening the window with a jerk, stuck out his arse, a handsome piece of work, buttocks and all, as far as to the haunch. This Nicholas at once let fly a fart, as loud as if it were a thunderclap.
There's so many fart jokes in the
I
Canterbury
mean,
Tales.
I understand why we read this in high school.
I just looked up Chaucer's private life.
Oh, what did we learn?
He was married, and it's pretty tame, but I wanted something a little bit more exciting.
Well, we don't, so it's really hard. We don't know. I read a biography on him, and like we studied him. He he was taken to court for something with a young girl, and we don't know a ton of details. So like, it was potentially a rape charge, it was potentially like a kidnapping charge, it was potentially just kind of like a trumped up weird thing. Like, it's there's scholars who like really study it, and everyone's like, we really don't know what happened. We know that he went to court for something, but he was never fully like convicted or charged with it. So who knows what happened. But yeah, we don't know much about his life. Most of the stuff, if you read any biography, most of it is like, here's the general historical documents we have from that time, so we can piece together a good idea of what he probably was doing, but we don't really actually know too much about him. And what we do know is still has holes.
It's so fascinating because they do have like a lot of records about like who he traveled with, and like he appears in these household accounts and like whatever. But yeah, it's all like, what would there have been documentation of, not like what was in between the documentation.
Yeah, all the documentation is, like household records, so then you can piece together stuff, but there wasn't a lot of documentation at the time of like people's narrative lives, unless they wrote letters and the letters were saved, which is why we get some royal stuff.
I shared this last week, but I'm like, I'm reading about this book of the ladies in waiting during the Tudor court, and it's like this new area of study where people are like, oh, but you can get a lot of the gossip and like social aspect of what was happening by reading those kind of records, but nobody's really ever looked there.
Yeah, I've been reading a lot of like female historians because they're going back and questioning and all that stuff. But
sorry,
I've been reading the Fourth Wing series, so there's that.
But back to the Canterbury Tales. One of the things I really love in the Miller's Tale, all of the story is funny, but in here he describes Allison and he plays on the idea of a blazon. So a blazon is one of those poems where you compare physical characteristics to something else. So like, her hair was like wheat flowing in the fields, her eyes were like blue like flowers, or whatever, the ocean, that's better than flowers for blue, but so like that kind of thing. So that's, we get it in Shakespeare a lot, it's in Petrarch and sonnets as well, but it's been around for a while. But for Allison's description, it's a blazon, but it's a weird version of it. So I'm going to read the like modern version of it. Fair was this young wife, and moreover, as any weasel was her body graceful and slender. A belt she wore with decorative strips of all silk, an apron as white as morning milk, upon her loins full many a flounce. White was her smock, embroidered all in front and also behind and around her collar. Of coal-black silk, within and without, the ribbons of her white cap were the same as her collar, her headband broad of silk and set very high. And surely she had a wanton eye, her 2 eyebrows were plucked very thin, and those were bent and black as any sloe, which I don't even know what that is. She was more blissful to look upon than is the new early ripe pear tree, and softer than the wool is of a sheep. Yeah, the wool of a sheep's not that soft. And saying her body is like a weasel and that these things are
Yeah,
black
not
as
a
coal and
compliment.
exactly. So this is not complimentary. So this is this like
But
poetic
it's written as
description.
if it was really romantic.
Exactly. And it made me think of one of my favorite Taylor lines that I still don't really understand, but from Snow on the Beach, she says, "But your eyes are flying saucers from another planet." And I was like, that
I think
has
it
the
means you're
same
high.
energy. Well, yes, but it still has the same energy of it's like this otherworldly thing that I'm comparing to you, but obviously I'm actually meaning something different, which is what's happening with this blazon, where it's like this is using the structure of a blazon to make something that's not super complimentary, which I think Taylor's doing in Snow on the Beach as well, which is
One
funny.
thing that I
It's a
will say is,
humorous version of it.
as you were reading those lines, what was the first line that you read?
It's
Something
about
about a
her being like a
weasel.
weasel.
Yeah.
Fair was this young wife, and moreover, as any weasel, was her body graceful and slender.
You know, the first thing that I thought of was green was the color of the grass, where I used to read
Yeah.
Invisible String. Like, we've been discussing this more recently, but I was just like, bad was the blood of the song, time, mystical
Like
time.
the
Like,
phrasing.
the
Yeah.
phrases that open up in the song, it's written exactly the same way.
Interesting.
Teal was the color of your shirt, green was the color of the grass.
Yeah, and there are a lot of colors here too.
So clearly it was inspired by Chaucer. You know how to ball, I know Geoffrey Chaucer. You know. This is a bonus episode. I can be unhinged.
Other thing I wanted to bring up is so the Deathly Hallows story of the three brothers in
Yes.
Harry Potter, that it's the Pardoner's Tale. It is straight up the Pardoner's Tale.
That's it for the preview, but if you enjoyed the sneak peek and you want to hear the rest of the episode, plus get additional content of AP Taylor Swift, you can subscribe to After School, aptaylorswift.substack.com/subscribe. You can click the link in the show notes of this episode. And of course, you can catch our regular episodes in your podcast feed, wherever you listen to podcasts, every single Wednesday. That's all we have for you today on AP Taylor Swift. Be sure to rate and review us on your favorite podcast app. Follow us on your social channel of choice at AP Taylor Swift to stay up to date. And join us next time as we overanalyze and deep dive into the next Taylor Swift song on AP Taylor Swift.